So we're all caught up. We've been through faith and peace, and now we're at love on this journey. And love is really the heart of it all, isn't it? Love is, I think for a lot of us in Unity, that key quality, that aspect that we understand to be unity, to be our experience of our spirituality and of our journey. And it's the same is true for Advent, for this season of moving toward that opening, that rebirth of the Christ in all of us. So this season also is a time that people can tend to experience and feel the pangs of loss. You may be one of those people right now, this season, that's experiencing that. And that's a part of love. So I want to presence that today to recognize that those feelings that might come up, maybe notice during a tradition that you have where somebody who used to be a part of that tradition isn't here physically, or not sitting at the table with you, or you're remembering their voice but you're not getting to hear it this year in a physical way. And so just acknowledging that too is a part of our love experience. That as we often have said, that grief is an expression of how deeply we have loved. And so to make that a part of what we embrace in this idea of love, that it is a part of our experience, not something that has to be separated out, that, the season is all about joy and I can't experience that. No, it's also about love. It's also about loss, because loss and love are not opposites. They are experiences that can go in tandem with one another. Loss is not a failure of love. It's a measure of our love. And so it allows us to see how much we really did love or do love when we're experiencing some kind of loss. So Advent invites us to trust that love doesn't disappear. It doesn't go away. It comes in new forms. There's a story that brings us home beautifully. Franz Kafka, the writer that had a really profound influence on 20th century. A lot of people really were inspired and influenced in various ways by his writings, which were mostly, by the way, published after he made his transition. He was only 41 when he died. And it was in the same year, well, I think it was a different calendar year, but within a 12-month period, that this story took place. He was walking in Stieglitz Park, which is a place in Berlin where he walked. It took a daily walk. And he came upon this little girl who was just crying her eyes out. And he said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I lost my doll." And so began their journey to find the doll. And they looked everywhere for the doll. And after a while, Franz realized that they're not going to find this doll. So he says to the girl, "I'm a volunteer postman. And I'm pretty sure that your doll is going to write you a letter because they think she's probably on a grand journey. And so meet me here tomorrow, same time, same place, right, in the park." And the little girl said, "Okay, I'll meet you in the park tomorrow." So Franz went home, and with the same kind of deliberate energy and detail and focus that he did with all of his writing, he composed a letter from the doll to the little girl. And then next morning, he came and brought the letter. And a key thing that was written in that particular letter was, "Please do not mourn me. I have gone on a trip to see the world. I will write you of my adventures." And so opened a 3-week daily experience where Franz would go home, compose another letter from the doll, meet the little girl in the park, and tell her about those adventures. That the doll, of course, would tell her about the adventures through the letter. The doll went all kinds of crazy places. Paris and Barcelona, Morocco and Egypt. She tried all kinds of foods from all around the world, these very interesting ethnic foods that she had never experienced before. She met all kinds of amazing people and had interesting conversations. And in these letters, all of that was revealed for 3 weeks until Franz met her the following day and presented her with a new doll. supposing it was the same doll. But the little girl was onto it right away and said, it doesn't look like her. But he had a prepared letter for that as well. So he pulls that letter out of his hip pocket and he says, well, this is what she said about this. I may appear different to you, but my travels have changed me. So that little girl kept that doll for many, many years, and as she grew into a young woman, she found one day that there was a little letter she had never even seen that was stuck in one of the crevices of the doll, and she pulled it out, and it said this: everything that you love, you will eventually lose. Take that hard truth in. Isn't it true? Everything we love will eventually lose. The people we love, the places we love, this life that we love. It's a reality that's hard to take in, but it is a part of love, right? And then it went on to say, but in the end, love will return in a different form. And we know this to be true too, don't we, in our journeys? That love always, that door always opens again in its various forms, in its various ways. Love comes again. So that hope that she offers, that truth that she offers, really tells us that loss can kind of rattle us awake to this recognition that we are in a dance of love, having incarnated on earth. We are in a process, a beautiful process of experiencing love in its many ways and forms, and welcoming it in and saying goodbye when we need to say goodbye, and welcoming something new in. And so it's that beauty, that recognition that love is constant, that love is a universal flow, that love is something that gives and receives over and over again, that goes and comes over and over again. Which brings us to the love of Christmas and to Mother Mary. I've always thought Advent belonged to Mary, that she should have her own season. And she does, right? So it really is this season. Of course, we're moving toward, and we always celebrate the idea that it's Jesus season. And it is that too, of course, because, a big part of Mary's purpose is intertwined, of course, with birthing this being who's going to shift all the paradigms, birthing this being who's going to show us about love, but who shows Jesus about the love? Mary. Where does it come through? Mary. Where does it ultimately come through? The source that we are all connected to. So Advent is this courageous journey of this young woman. This young woman who consents, spiritually, the journey is she consents to this idea of Spirit moving within her. She consents and allows and agrees to and does carry the divine through all this time toward its birth, its revelation into the world as the Christ light and the Christ love and the presence that we know as a part of Christmas. And that new paradigm I mentioned, that revelatory message of love, it comes through the source, it comes through Mary, then it comes through Jesus, as it does for all of us directly from the source. But this beautiful story shows us how that works, that incarnation of divinity into humanity, the ushering in of divine love, that expansive and ever-present, permeating kind of love that is a constant through us and as us. That's the celebration of Christmas, is to recognize that again and again that we are consenting to let Spirit move through us. We are carrying a kind of love through this season of expectation and anticipation. And then we are birthing it back out into the love again, into the world again as love as ourselves. Rebirthing ourselves, renewed in love, renewed in faith and joy and peace, all of the aspects of this Advent journey. So Jesus drew that innate love through Mary, and Mary shows us how to really solidly base that love and then open up the portal of love to let it flow. So I want to look at these three aspects of love today that Mary's leading us to. Those two I just mentioned, that idea of love being solidly rooted, and then also opening up, ideally from that space of solid rootedness and love, to being an open channel for love. And then recognizing that love is our purpose, our collective purpose, our individual purpose connected to that collective purpose. Individually, we'll have different ways of expressing it, but that's our collective purpose as humans, why we've come to love. So let's start with this rooted idea with a story. So we know the story of the shepherds, right? In the Christmas story, of course, that follow the light, follow the star, and come to the place of the birth. And 880 years later, there's kind of a similar story, at least in terms of the shepherds who see a strange light, and they hear music. And they follow those signs, this in the middle of seemingly nowhere in the mountains in Spain, to a cave. And in that cave, they find a statue of the Madonna. It's specifically dark-complected Madonna. It's the Black Madonna. And this is in a space where they don't know what to do with it or what it means or why it's here. And so they go down to the town and they tell the bishop and the church officials. And the church officials come up with some of the congregants and climb the mountain and come into the cave. And they think, well, we should bring this statue down to the town to have it in our temple. And so they go to move it, and it's heavy, but then it's like it becomes heavier. Have you ever tried to move a child that doesn't want to be moved? I imagine it's sort of like that feeling, that sort of kind of just that planted sort of space that you're just like, all of a sudden this 15-pound child became like, I don't know, 50 pounds or something. And so I imagine that to be what they experience. It's like it was hard to move, but then all of a sudden it was like it was impossible to move. And they interpreted that as Mary doesn't want to leave the mountain. And so she is meant to stay here. And over time, eventually, there were hermits on that, across from the mountain in that area, but eventually a monastery was built there around that Black Madonna. It's Montserrat, if you've never heard of it, or maybe you have, outside of Barcelona. It's a monastery of Santa Maria, of course, in Montserrat, and you can even go there and visit. The statue today is believed to be a carved Black Madonna from like the 11th or 12th century that they show in the, what do you call that, cathedral? Church, that works too. Yeah. Church, cathedral. What do we call that thing that we're standing in? I always appreciate how you all help. It's a collective experience. What's that? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Cathedral, yeah. That's okay. We don't need to get specific here or technical. Anyway, this story reminds me of divine love and that aspect of it that is so rooted and immovable. You experience that sometimes, yes? You know what I'm talking about, that sense of when you sometimes get in connection with it in this deep way within yourself, or maybe you experience it when you're in nature and you kind of see it as a reflection of yourself, or you experience it in the rootedness of the trees, or the sense of a depth in the Mother Ocean, or the other ways that it feels fairly grounded on earth, the rocks, the mountains, for example. Just different ways that we see a reflection of, and we can feel a sense of, that love does have an aspect that is just absolutely immovable, unshakable, rooted. And that, to me, that story reminds me of that essence. It's kind of like, you might try to hide me, you might try to bury me, you might try to, push me aside or even move me, but I am unmovable, unshakable, completely rooted. I'm not going anywhere. And it's a reassurance for us, because in the times that we forget, in the times that we lose our way and that we think, well, where is God? Where is love? Where is that sense of rootedness in the truth, of that feeling that I had of faith and connection at one point, and then stuff happens in our lives, or we lose sense of our practice, and then all of a sudden we feel kind of unmoored. Can you relate to these things? Yeah, and then we come back, right? The pendulum swings back. We take the steps we need to take to get back. And then we go, oh yeah, there I am. I'm home again. I'm rooted again. I'm where I belong. And that in a way is like what Mary was communicating, I think, through this image. The Black Madonnas found all over the world. It's just a darker complected Mary, which most of the depictions we see are probably lighter than Mary actually was. But it's that sense. It also sometimes people will relate to the Black Madonna images as a more earthy kind of a sense of being grounded on earth, a little bit more of a Mother Nature, or a kind of, as my friend Kelly Hunt sings, gravity loves you, baby. It's kind of like the lower chakras like come into play, right? And you kind of feel that, like I'm here, I'm solidly here, and I'm solidly centered in love. And so there is that sense of kind of immovable, centered, grounded love. And it's from that place that we draw our energy, our ideas, our actions. Let's take a moment to root in that together. I just invite you, if you want to participate, to close your eyes for a moment and take a breath. And again, to just call in that presence of love, maybe to surround you, to embrace you. Maybe that would feel good for you right now, to feel like you're actually embraced in love. You might imagine that as a mother love. You can become like a child again. Really let yourself lean into that. I'm supported. I'm loved. I'm held in compassion. To feel the heaviness of that love inside of you, that feel it in your hips and your legs, and can let that love either come up through the earth, through the soles of your feet, or come down, have it go both directions, between your heart and the soles of your feet and the earth, just really letting love come in, let it run through you like honey. As we feel this grounded love, we can just remind ourselves that love doesn't float away when things are hard. It doesn't go away. It's not lost. It doesn't disappear. It stays. It's always here. It's only us who forgets. It's a grounding in these lower chakras, feeling that connection with the earth and with mother love, with the heart, with the great mother, or maybe that doesn't resonate for you, so just love itself. God is love. What if you trusted this, if you're feeling into this, if you're connecting? What if you trusted it was always here for you? What if you trusted that I am always connected to an unshakable, immovable love, rooted in place, anchored within me? In the cave of my own heart, there is an unshakable, immovable Madonna, or sense of love, that holds me, that loves me unconditionally, thoroughly. And you can just let that energy move through you and ground you in place. And to know, even as you move about the world, that you carry it with you, this sense of grounding, this sense of centered love. So invite us to just say this simple affirmation: I am rooted in immovable love. I am rooted in immovable love. And when you're ready to come back into this place. So in addition to this very simple practice that we have in various ways of meditation and returning to that rootedness, that feeling of love that is here for me and that's solid in my body as well. We can have other things that, time and nature for a lot of us might be that also centering and rooting and grounding in love. Or having icons. For some people are connected to this idea of mother love. And like I brought my Madonna, I should say, from my fireplace to be with us through the Christmas season. And having those for me, I have them in my garden and different various faces of God in various forms, it reminds me, they're good reflection points for me, reminders for me, that there is a rooted, immovable love available to me, an unshakable, dependable, reliable love that is always here, anchored on earth, all over earth. There are places where Mother Mary has shown up, and there's stories and legends and we've built up amazingly big tourist attractions out of them. But it's also, based in sacred experience, often by children who have seen or heard Mary in various places. So there are sort of these anchor points of that kind of love physically on earth, and, acupressure points and ley lines and all that stuff that we've probably heard about of different places where there's an energy, a kind of energy of love. Mount Shasta has some of that kind of energy that's near us. And most importantly, you don't have to go to any of those places because it's right here. It's right here. So if images help you remember, it's here. She's telling me. Look, it's here. We're constantly birthing it. We're constantly bringing it into the world in its innocence, in its power, in its promise. So whatever works for you beyond this kind of grounding, do it. Because grounding in love is the most important thing I think we can do on our spiritual journey. And then once we're grounded in it, it's easy for us to take that next step of looking at ourselves and experiencing ourselves as an open channel. When we're out of the grounding, we can do it, but it's different. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can have connection and we can have experiences and we can create things and we can solve problems and then it just sort of like loses a little bit of its weightiness and sacredness, because we're just running on this kind of conscious level energy. It's not rooted in the source of love. So we can be an open channel and we can give and receive love from this place, and there'll be an expiration point. But when we're over here in that space where we're rooted in it, we're like an eternal spring. We're just an open channel, and love comes through us and is experienced through us in such a different kind of way. It's that sort of grounded kind of way, right? That then we're fully present to what's going on. Over here the lights are pretty and the gifts are fun and the celebrations are great. And over here it's like, I love you so much. The difference. So who doesn't want to be over here in the root, in the groundedness, so that from here everything can be experienced, both coming in through that source, that truth, that kind of mother love that will keep on rejuvenating us, but also being experienced on this level, heart to heart, soul to soul, with others, with our human family, with all beings. then we have that experience that's like seen and heard and experienced in such a different way. And it grounds in the cells of our beings as memory. And then it becomes like muscle memory, easier and easier for us again and again to go into those spaces of giving and receiving from this very plugged in place, truly being a channel. So Mary shows us these different ways to do that through her life. And one of them is when she's told what's going to happen to her, it's said in the scriptures this time and actually in another time, when Mary ponders, she doesn't ponder up here. She ponders in her heart. Luke says, Mary treasured all these things and pondered them in her heart. So this young unwed mother gets this super scary news, and she treasures these things and ponders them in her heart. So that is it's an opening for us, a lesson for us, a way for us to understand that there are going to be times when these things happen to us, when we get challenging news. Ever happen to you? Right? When things happen in life that you're surprised by, or you're guided to do something and you think, me? I don't think so. Or I don't really believe, that this is true or this really happened. You have some kind of wonderful mystical experience, and when you're in it, you're in the love and you're in the experience and you're in the wow and the awe and the wonder. And then you come out of it and you're like, oh yeah, I'm not sure if that was real. Anybody ever experienced that, right? Yeah, and so I think Mary is telling us no, it's real. This stuff is real. And you got to ponder it in your heart. Keep it in your heart. Treasure it. Treasure your experience. Treasure even the news. Because even though it may be difficult news or something you didn't want or things going in a direction you didn't want or loss like we talked about before, if you ponder it in your heart rather than your mind, it's a completely different experience, isn't it? When I ponder something in my mind, it's helpful. I can work some stuff out. I can weigh the pros and cons. I can write out the goals and all that. And it feels a little dry. It doesn't have the juice of the emotion in it. And it also doesn't have the weightiness that's deep in the body that we just experienced. But when it's pondered in our hearts, it's more centered in our bodies. It's more centered in love. And from here, it's more like a witnessing, a curiosity, there's just sort of like an experience of inquiry when we ponder in our hearts. What might become of this? What might become of me? What is next for me? What am I being shown here? So all of that gives it a different kind of sense. And it's something that we can take then as an example for ourselves, that when life happens, I'm going to ponder that in my heart. I'm even going to maybe treasure the things that are happening and see if I can find the gems. See if I can allow the love to be felt and then shared. So one of the things about opening up the channel, kind of the key, I think, to open up this channel of love, to open ourselves to give and receive, when we talk about opening a channel, in a way it's we're kind of wired for it to be open, and then we choose to close. And sometimes it's wise discernment that causes us to close, just temporarily, in a scenario. Protection for a moment, as long as we're conscious of what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing, it makes sense, right? It's when we, that we go off the rails a little bit when we become unconscious. But I think the key here about the open channel is to look to see, what sort of clogs up the channel? What sort of keeps the channel narrow, too narrow to really fully feel it? And I'm just going to zero in on one thing that I think is really the key. Judgment. Because discernment and judgment are very different things. And judgment, in the sense of judging others and judging ourselves, it leads us right out of love. It's separation consciousness. There's no other way that judgment can have life unless we throw it into the pool of separation that says you and I are separate. I and the divine are separate. And so living from that space does not feel very loving, does it? So love is in unitive consciousness. It's in the consciousness of oneness. And when we stop judging, we melt into that natural space that we are meant to be in. Eckhart Tolle has a comment about meditation, and I'm just going to adapt it here for this, to watch your judging thoughts like a cat would watch a mouse hole. And when the judgment comes through, pounce on it. And see if you can, turn it around and allow it to be let go. And allow yourself to return then to love. To recognize in the moment as you're judging yourself or someone else or situation that you could instead be experiencing love. And that's the key that we want to experience. So those are a couple of the things that I think Mary shows us through her experience of receiving the news and grounding, being that rooted, grounded space of love, and then just opening up the channel and to allow ourselves then to move into this sense of purpose that love is. As Karen Drucker sings, if love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and then receive. And so that's what we're doing when we open up, right? That as we open up as a channel, we're giving and receiving love. That's what's happening there. And that is really why we've come, to love. That's it, to give love, to receive love, to be in that flow of love. So it's all there really is, isn't it? In essence. So the Advent season is all these aspects of love and more, but we can only cover so much it goes so many places in a Sunday, and focus in on the places where we think it might be most helpful to us to really be the love that we have come here to be, to really express this purpose of love that we have come to. It's so recognizing that loss and love are not opposites, but they allow us to become more trusting and available to love, to see it in its many changing forms, at the same time knowing we can be rooted in an immovable kind of centered love, and to open up from there to be in life with one another in that flow of giving and receiving. So that's what love is for us in this moment, I think, and for the many other ways that you might be reflecting on love right now. So let's be in that together this week, especially this week of love, as we move toward our next place in the journey, which is joy, and finally to that moment of rebirth at Christmas. Love is why we're here. Karen says if, but I'm going to take the if out and just say, love is why we're here, to be an open channel, to give and to receive. So I want to invite you to affirm with me this idea that we are deeply rooted and we are this channel. Together, I am deeply rooted in love and an open channel of love's continuous flow. And so it is.